Hello, everyone. We'll be getting started momentarily. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having us here in Prescott Valley and for everybody who's come from the town and from the surrounding communities. We appreciate you having us. We will start with asking our interpreters to introduce themselves, so if they would come up to the mic.
Buenos días, mi nombre es el doctor Yersus Colmenares y voy a ser el intérprete en español que voy a estar ubicado al lado izquierdo aquí del auditorio. Good morning. I'm Dr. Yersus Colmenares and I will be the Spanish interpreter. I will be located on the right side of or left side of the room. Thank you.
And then I believe our interpreter, sign language interpreter, will introduce herself or himself. And at this time, I don't see them, but we will begin.
My name is
sorry.
Tiana. I am one of the ASL interpreters. My team is having technical difficulties, so hopefully she will be here momentarily.
Thank
And
you.
her name is
So we will begin. Thank you. So we will begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And let me introduce you to the Independent Redistricting Commission Chair, Chair Erica Newberg.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. I now call to order the public hearing for the Arizona Independent Redistricting Commission. There is a transcriptionist who will be recording every word. Please speak slowly and clearly so we have a clear record of your input. At this time, we will introduce ourselves. My name is Erica Newberg. I am the chairwoman. I live in Chandler, representing Maricopa County, but really representing the entire state. And we have Commissioner Meal joining us.
Hi, I'm David Meal, and I live in Pima County, and happy to be here as a commissioner.
And we have Commissioner York, I believe, trying to sign on, and if he's not able to be on a panel, he'll take advantage of whatever WebEx is available. So before we move to the main event, public comment, I just want to let everybody in this room know Prescott will be #1, legislative district #1. I also want to let everybody know that if somebody has, and you're going to hear this from the staff, but I'm going to actually mention it before we even read the rules, you do not have to say your entire speech or message. If somebody has literally said the same thing, you can come up and say, I agree with this person 100%. And we know the information. If you'd like to say it, that's absolutely fine. But I just want to let you know that it's counted equally, whether you say the whole thing or whether you just convey your way of thinking. So now with that, I'm going to turn it over to the staff to read the rules.
Thank you, Chair Newberg. In compliance with the Arizona Open Meeting Law, speakers should confine their statements to the issue on the posted agenda, which is before the commission. Speakers are also requested to limit their comments to about 2 minutes. Additionally, speakers are required to follow the proper decorum. Speakers must use appropriate language. Foul and/or abusive language will not be tolerated. Any speaker failing to follow proper decorum or any other guidelines may be asked to leave. Any breach of the peace or disruption of a commission public hearing may be cause of report to law enforcement, arrest, and prosecution. This is a nonpartisan meeting. Please do not distribute political material in the meeting room. Opposing viewpoints may be expressed by the citizens present. As a courtesy, citizens are reminded to address their comments to the chair and the commission. and not to the audience present. Please show respect for all speakers and avoid personal comments. Remember, the commission must hear all sides of an issue to make an informed decision. And I will take it back to Chair Newberg.
Yeah, no, we'll begin public comment.
Oh, but let me get this. All right, I will call the first speakers. And in order, number one will be Phil Good. And that's Prescott City Councilman Phil Good, Prescott City Council member Cathy Rusing, Yavapai County Supervisor Harry Oberg, Chino Valley School Board District Board Member Mike Fogle, Yavapai Supervisor Mary Mallory, Sedona City Council Member Jessica Williams, and followed by Deborah and I apologize if I get your name wrong, Kathleen, thank you. Yavapai College Governing Board Chair, and then Karen Osborne, City Manager. If you would line up, if you're not able to, that would be fine. Thank you.
May I begin? Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'm Prescott City Councilman and Mayor-elect Phil Good from the City of Prescott. I also am the Secretary Treasurer of the Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Transportation Planning Organization in Yavapai County. My primary focus on my comments is to keep LD1 as it currently exists intact to the maximum amount possible. I've had numerous opportunities to work and consider common interests with town leaders in the Verde Valley over my career in public service. And we certainly have very, very many common interests. Rural issues that need state and congressional representation for agriculture, cattle, ranching, forestry, and particularly the management of our forests for the impact on wildfires, et cetera, as we're all aware of. I think the most common critical issue is water and the Verde River. Our Prescott Active Management Area relies on includes the headwaters of the Verde River. The Verde River flows all the way through our legislative district and into the Verde Valley. Every one of those surrounding communities are very critically dependent on the perennial flow and the access to the Verde River. Water resource management is so critical for the sustainability and the future economic development of those areas that has to be considered. And to split off the Verde Valley from Yavapai would be very, very detrimental. So we have educational opportunities that are consistent in Yavapai College, and I want to make sure that veterans issues are also mentioned. Being the president of the Northern Arizona Veterans Advisory Council, there are so many common interests
Thank
that
you
have
very
to
much.
be maintained. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Cathy Rusing. I'm a Prescott City Council member. However, today I am speaking as a voter in Yavapai County. If you want to give all voters an effective voice at the ballot box, you need to keep Yavapai County together in one legislative district. For example, there are 5 county board supervisors who represent us. One supervisor represents the Verde Valley, yet this map would separate and isolate her and her district from the rest of the county supervisors and from Prescott, the county seat. Another example is water. Water management and conservation will always be an issue here in Arizona on a local, state, and federal level. The Little Chino Aquifer supplies the headwaters of the Verde River and is in the Prescott Active Management Area, all of which are in Yavapai County. The maps will separate the headwaters in the aquifer from the river, creating a future quagmire of jurisdictions concerning ADWR, SRP, water rights, water law, and conservation and management efforts, to name a few. Prescott is the biggest economic driver for all of Yavapai County. We don't compete, but we enhance the Verde Valley through mutually beneficial economic growth and development and education. An example is Prescott's Yavapai College and the innovative Southwest Wine Center in Clarkdale, which has been important to the development of the wine industry in the Verde Valley. The 600-bed county jail is in Camp Verde, and the new County Justice Center is scheduled to open in Prescott next year. Having each facility and the inmates who are transferred back and forth in two different legislative districts sounds like an administrative nightmare for the Sheriff's Department. In summary, Yavapai County is a checkerboard of private, county, state, federal, and tribal lands. Please unite us, don't divide us, and I want to say thank you to all of you for taking on this monumental task.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Harry Oberg, and I'm a Yavapai County Supervisor. I would like to respond to both of your current draft maps. I request that you give serious consideration to CD 0068 in developing the IRC's final map. Map 68 more properly aligns Yavapai County's communities of interest than your current CD map. Due to concerns with our scarce water resources in north, central, and western Arizona, this community of interest is more closely aligned with the western counties of Mojave, La Paz, Gila, portions of Coconino, than with the eastern counties depicted on your map. The district boundaries shown in map CD 0068 align the eastern counties with their common communities of interest into their own CD. Combining these eastern counties naturally establishes a minority-majority district that would provide congressional representation specifically attuned to unique Native American interests. In reference to your current LD map 10.0, we fully support this map and believe that establishing Yavapai County as its own LD is appropriate due to our census numbers. Also, this map supports our longstanding communities of interest across the county, including our Western rural heritage, culture, and lifestyle, and our collective concern in Yavapai County for saving our primary community of interest, the Verde River. To have the greatest hope of saving the longest surviving living river in Arizona, our county must remain whole as its own legislative district. The only proposed changes to your LD map would be to include the entire towns of Sedona and Wickenburg in LD5, so as not to split these communities between two legislative districts. In closing, map CD 0068 and your current LD map will allow us to protect and preserve our interests and the scarce water resources that sustain those interests. Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you for your time.
Good morning. My name is Mike Fogle. I am on the governing board of the Chino Valley School District, and I have lived in Chino Valley for 28 plus years. As to today's question, I am opposed to the redistricting maps proposed by this board because they fail to create fair and competitive districts, which otherwise would comply with the U.S. Constitution, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and Proposition 106 of the Arizona State Constitution. The current failed design has created something called safe districts that sustain a one-party rule in that district. There are 11 safe Democratic districts currently and 13 safe Republican districts and 6 competitive districts. I have to ask, how fair is that the makeup of the legislature is rigged to the advantage of Republicans? Unfortunately, and furthermore, safe districts just foster citizens' complacency, apathy, disengagement, and leads to democratic dysfunction. I prefer a dynamic democracy fostered by competitiveness that would encourage legislators to listen to and respond to all of their citizens whom they represent. I have experienced this dysfunction directly in my role as a public education advocate and as my role as a school board member, and the dysfunction works this way. I have sat many a meeting with my legislators and school officials who who have grave concerns about the district and have consistently heard the response. I believe your concerns are genuine and real. I sympathize, but my hands are tied by party leadership not to act on your behalf. I believe that dysfunction is directly related to why public schools in Yavapai County are inadequately funded and have been relegated to the status of the poorest of the poor in this country. Our families in Yavapai County deserve a lot better. I implore you instead to implement 3 alternative map proposals: LDF 50, LDF 51, and CDF 10. This will create at least one more competitive district and thus take one small step towards creating the kind of republic our founding fathers envisioned. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Mary Mallory. I am a Yavapai County Supervisor. I am here to say that I support the current LD 567 and CD 10.0 maps that have come forward by you. According to the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, the Big Chino Basin and the Verde Valley are part of the same watershed. Flagstaff is not part of that watershed. Flagstaff is part of the Little Colorado watershed. Water is a central issue for the future of all of Yavapai County residents. Sedona, Verde Valley are part of the Yavapai Library Network, which is an amazing benefit to all of Yavapai County residents. Yavapai College main campus is in Prescott, with satellite campuses in Clarkdale and Sedona. In closure, many have said that the mountain divides us. I find that as part of God's landscape. It does not divide us. It's the beauty of Yavapai County. So please keep us as one. Thank you.
My name is Deb McAllister, and thank you very much for letting me speak to you. I'm on the Yavapai College Governing Board, currently acting as chair. I'm speaking for myself as a voter and resident of Yavapai County for the last 59 years. I have an interest, my community of interest is Yavapai County. As a governing board member, we set a tax levy for the county, and all of our residents that own property in Yavapai County contribute to the running of the college. That's a hefty sum of money to keep a college going. They need to have a voice in many ways, and I support Mary Mallory's comments and others before me. We need to keep Yavapai County whole and keep our center of interest there. Yavapai College specializes in skill training and educating our Yavapai County students and potential students. Let us operate as an entire community, not have a division, and that I support keeping Yavapai County whole.
I'm Jessica Williamson. I'm on the Sedona City Council. I drove here from Sedona. It took me quite a long time. I had a choice between heading down I-17 and then cutting over and avoiding the mountains, or going over the mountains on a twisty mountain road, despite the glowing picture of the mountains as like essentially not being there. They are in fact significant geographic features that separates the Verde Valley and Sedona from Prescott. The Verde Valley population is significantly less than the population on the west side of the mountain. And the interests of our citizens here in the Verde Valley often take a back seat to the interests of those living in Prescott. I'm sure the people from Prescott would disagree with that, but that has been our experience with the college and with other institutions. There is no compelling reason to keep Yavapai County intact as an electoral district. 12 of the 15 counties are divided in the draft maps. They have water issues, they have jails, they have libraries, they have institutions, and they're all handled because that's what happens, is that these issues are handled. It's not a reason that anybody argues that they have to be kept intact. I urge you to keep Sedona intact and not split it on county lines. And I urge you to recognize that Sedona has no natural connection to Prescott, socially, culturally, or geographically. Yavapai County supervisors who don't represent Sedona don't necessarily know or are representing what's best for Sedona, our interests. Residents of Prescott don't necessarily representing Sedona's interests. Sedona doesn't belong with Prescott despite all of the rhetoric. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Newberg, members of the commission. My name is Karen Osborne, and I am the Sedona City Manager. My comments are being made on behalf of the Mayor and City Council of Sedona. As you know, the City of Sedona has presented testimony at a number of public hearings of the IRC. In that testimony, the city has remained consistent that Sedona should be kept intact in both a congressional district and a legislative district that maintains the Verde Valley communities together within both of those congressional and legislative districts. While the congressional district does reflect this request, the legislative maps do not. The current maps adopted by the IRC split the city of Sedona and the Verde Valley and splits half of the Sedona from Flagstaff. As a city with a population of less than 10,000, splitting our small community and splitting us from our region just does not make sense. Sedona works with our neighboring communities and shares common interests on issues such as housing, economic development, tourism, healthcare, transportation and education, and many other long-term alliances. The current maps remove a portion of our city and its residents from these relationships and bonds. The City of Sedona requests reconsideration of the proposed legislative district boundaries and support of the maps submitted by Coconino County, LDF 50 and LDF 51. These maps reflect Sedona's values and meet the constitutional mandates of communities of interest, equal population, geographical compactness, and competitiveness. We ask that the City of Sedona be kept intact to ensure our residents can continue to speak with one voice as a community. We further ask that our city be kept with its neighboring communities so that our region may have unified representation in matters before the state. Thank you for the opportunity.
I have a follow-up question. I'm curious, what is more important to you if a choice has to be made? Is it more important to be with Verde Valley and the other communities, or is it more important to be with Flagstaff?
I think the most important thing for us is to maintain our coordination with the Verde Valley communities. That is our primary geographical area for community of interest, but we also believe, and the City Council has discussed this on multiple occasions at public meetings, and concur that our alignment with the issues involved with the city of Flagstaff are much more prominent and important to us than being aligned with the city of Prescott, in which we don't believe we have those same common interests.
I hear you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And before we go to Kykotsmovi village in the Hopi Nation, we have just an announcement to make. We do have people waiting outside. So if you feel that you've concluded your speaking to the commission and that you are done, if you would be willing to trade places with them so that they can come in and they can speak also. So thank you. So we will go to Michelle at the Hopi Nation. Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners and listening audience, Madam Chair. I am in the beautiful lands of the Hopi people, Kykotsmovi. I have two speakers here. Our first speaker is the former chairman here for the Hopi Nation, Mr. Herman Honani. He's a council member representing the village of Kykotsmovi.
Lolma Good morning. I learned about this hearing just yesterday evening. And basically, the only thing that I learned was that there is a move towards this redistricting, and which would put the Hopi Reservation under the Prescott area, Prescott District. And there's a couple of individuals who stated just previously that I firmly do not believe that Prescott does and ever will and can speak on behalf of Hopi. So with the redistricting efforts, Hopi remains totally and who we should be as a indigenous people, as a nation of our own. I believe and could even say that Navajo could say the same thing. So why is there an effort to rob of us any kind of a democratic effort on our part to seek what efforts we need? We have a vast number of differences when it comes to life, economics, and even politics. And so for us to be included under Prescott, which is certainly ramrod a lot of ideas politically and otherwise. So I stand opposed to this redistricting, as I think I can speak on behalf of my Hopi Tribal Council that the majority of our council people would be opposed to this measure, as well as a basic person on the street and off the street and across the reservation. So I thank you for this opportunity. Again, I stand opposed to this effort. Kwakwa.
Our next speaker is Karen Shupla. She is the governor for the village of Bakavi.
Good morning. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak on this issue as a member of the Hopi Tribe and the governor of the village of Kykotsmovi. Also speaking on behalf of the Hopi chairman, Nuvangayama, who I had a phone call conversation with this morning. He is on travel, chairman is on travel, and will be sending his letter on this issue when he returns back to the Hopi Reservation. Also looking at it from the perspective of the Hopi Tribe, as former Chairman Honani had mentioned, Prescott is not in the best interest for the Hopi Nation. I also oppose that process, which will be given or is trying to be taken in this redistricting. Letter of confirmation from my village also will be forthcoming in the opposition of including Prescott into our district area. Thank you very much.
And Madam Chair, just as stated earlier, I spoke with the chairman of the Hopi Tribe this morning, and he was going to try and call in, but he did state that he will be submitting a letter to the Independent Redistricting Commission, so we can look forward to that. Thank you. That is all the speakers that I have from Kykotsmovi.
Thank you, Michelle. Right now, we have about 80 speakers in Prescott Valley, and if there's anyone who just wanted to say that they agreed with the previous speaker or any other speakers and decided not to speak at this point, that's okay, just let us know. So I will call up the first 5 speakers. Kathleen Clark, Kelly Borica, James Stein, Lauren Newington, and Connie Martin. And if you could line up, we would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Kathleen Clark. I live at the ranch in Prescott. I escaped from the madness in California several years ago. I lived in a small desert community similar to this. For 37 years, I was a teacher. My concern isn't about all of the water issues and other things. My concern is what I escaped from. Our small community of several different small towns in a high desert became divided like this over political issues. The mayors of the different towns fought against each other, wouldn't work together to build roads connecting each other, work together to build shopping malls, businesses, etc. I don't want to see the same thing happen here. I actually know probably a large number of the people that are in this room right now and would consider them friends. Yavapai County is a united conglomeration of many different types of regions or areas, but they're friends. They work together. I would really love to see this place that I love stay the way it is, connected and working together as a community. This is a great community, and I hope it stays that way. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Baritza, and I've been lucky enough to call Prescott my home for the last 10 years. There are so many impressive things about this state, but one that stands out is this commission. Arizona recognized the importance of keeping politics out of the redistricting process when they passed Prop 106. Unfortunately, I do not think the current maps are drawn as accomplishing that goal. They are failing to achieve what the voters wanted. We need competitive districts. Competitiveness is not the least of the 6 criteria. It is actually the most important one. Competitive districts force candidates to listen and respond to all of their constituents, Republicans, Democrats, and independents. Competitive districts encourage participation, engagement, and most importantly, in my book, moderation. Competitive districts allow the best candidates to emerge. Competitive districts would eliminate extremism, as no candidate can be assured re-election regardless of bad behavior. Unlike your draft maps, LDF 50, LDF 51, and CD 10 offer maps that are balanced and competitive. Competitive districts do not favor any party. If you are committed to upholding one person and one vote and want everyone's vote to count, then you will need to redraw these maps to create more competitive districts. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is James Stein. That's S-T-E-I-N. I reside in Prescott, Arizona. Proposition 106 was designed to create mapping of fair and competitive congressional and legislative districts. Competitive districts encourage civic engagement and moderate political extremism. This is something that appears to be lacking in this state. My reading of the proposed maps of Northern Arizona indicate that none of these districts are considered to be competitive. I would propose CDP 010 and LDF 050 would at least produce one competitive district. It would keep the cities and towns of Flagstaff and Wickenburg whole as the community of interest, which I feel is much more important than keeping Yavapai County whole. There was a reason why these hearings were held on both sides of Mingus Mountain, because it neatly divides the county as a geographical boundary. The Quad Cities are much more connected to the western part of the state than they are to the Verde Valley, both from an economic sense as well as from a cultural one. The Verde Valley is much more of a tourism-based economy. A drive through Jerome or Sedona on any weekend will prove this out. I urge you to adopt CDF 010 and the LDF 050 districts to produce fair and competitive maps. Thank you for your consideration.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Newington, and I'm a Prescott resident. I believe that Yavapai County should be kept as its own LD based on population numbers and communities of interest. The LD should not be changed except to add the portions of Sedona and Wickenburg outside of Yavapai County to LD 5 so as not to split towns. Keep towns whole. Prescott is my community of interest. Water is a central issue for Prescott and Yavapai County. The Big Chino and Verde Valley are part of the same watershed. We need representatives who understand and live with these water issues. Thank you for your time and attention in this matter.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Connie Martin, and I live in Yavapai County. I very much appreciate the current map that you have drawn for us. I've tried drawing them myself. It's not easy. I'm quite happy with the way they are, with the exception of a few exceptions, but Verde Valley and Sedona align with our rural retirement communities here in Yavapai, from Wickenburg to Black Canyon to Sedona. And the predominance of our senior citizens have nothing in common with the very different needs and concerns that the youthful college town of Flagstaff have. Our AZ Constitution says competitiveness is only a factor if it doesn't divide our communities of interest. And I believe that stands true here in Yavapai County. Thank you.
And the next 5 speakers are Matthew Cordova, Selena Bliss, Douglas Clodis, Lois Freeworth, and Diane McQueen.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, my name is Matthew Cordova, Prescott, Arizona. I agree with Phil Good, Councilman Russo, Supervisor Oberg. I'm against this redistricting. Communities, counties should not be separated for the purpose of representation. That's why they were formed by the people with a vision long time ago for the purpose of defining growth, proper use of resources such as water. We must stay independent of urban overreach. In the next 10, 20 years, if this redistricting is successful, it will undoubtedly see the usurped urban control of our active management areas, which very well in backroom deals could send our water elsewhere. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. 61 years in a failed state, destroyed by redistricting. Once called the breadbasket of the nation, the San Joaquin Valley, the state of California, was recognized. Now, because of redistricting regulations, there's no water, barren land, and no family farm. It's not the breadbasket anymore. I have 34 years experience in government, water, sourcing, treatment, distribution. City of Fresno, state of California, and the city and county of San Francisco. I've seen my fair share of this stuff. Today in California, if you're harvesting and an inspector comes to your land and he sees animal scat, domestic or wild, he can quarantine your crop at your expense, fine you, and you lose your premium price. That's why it failed. That's why I came here. I consider this home. I consider this heaven. And I see it happening here. Let me tell you, the battle cry used to be, don't California my Arizona, don't Maricopa my Yavapai. Thank you.
Hard act to follow. I'm Dr. Selena Bliss. First and foremost, a big thank you for the time and effort that's gone into the redistricting process up to now. As a resident of Yavapai County since 1971, I want to especially thank you for keeping our county from getting split into 2 different legislative districts, as we truly are a community of interest that shares geographical features, city, town, and county boundaries. What is best for our district is to include all of Yavapai County in the district. I say this because I've taught at the Yavapai College Nursing Program for 26 years, and it is part of the role of the faculty to teach on both the Prescott and Verde Valley campuses, as well as to hold our clinical rotations in acute care facilities on both sides of Yavapai County. In fact, our brand new state-of-the-art clinical simulation lab is on our Verde Valley campus. So the commute from the Clarkdale campus in the east side of the county to the Prescott campus on the west side of the county is one students and faculty make weekly. Meetings on our Sedona campus are also conducted as the college has a strong presence across the Verde Valley and into Sedona. I personally enjoy attending college courses, performances, and events on both sides of the county. While you may hear arguments for and against keeping Yavapai County in one district, just working and taking personal interest courses at Yavapai College has made me realize how important it is in keeping our county together in one district. The only unnatural boundary now is that of Sedona, which if we follow the criteria, Sedona would be left whole and included in LD5. So I'm in favor of the current draft map. And again, much thanks for the work you do. It is much appreciated.
Good morning. My name is Lois Ford, and I'm a citizen of Yavapai County. I want to thank you, Chairman Newberg and commissioners, for the opportunity to provide final public comments. Thank you for your dedicated service to this extremely important task. I'm here to say you got current LD Draft Map 10.0 right for Yavapai County. You listened to weeks of honest public input across all 6 constitutional criteria, and you got the LD proposal right for both the people and the communities of Yavapai County. Well done. But listening to the past 2 weeks of recent testimony, I'm angered by the obviously partisan ploys by Coconino County supervisors who don't represent the majority of people in Yavapai County, swooping in at the 11th hour in what I view as an outrageous attempt to break up our Yavapai County and our strong and simply critical communities of interest. People who have been testifying who are so on script that some of them don't even understand what they're saying when questioned. Besides being compact, Yavapai County has a rich rural culture and history of ranching, farming, and Western values and love of our beautiful vistas. The Mingus Mountain is not the Great Wall of China as depicted, but rather a vista we love to see from both the north and south views. We share a watershed that spans Mingus Mountain and that uniquely binds us all in a community of interest that is vital to all the people's futures. Much of us have retired here, and we enjoy hosting the same tourists that come to both sides of the mountain, as all of us love the great outdoors of Yavapai County and regularly travel the roads across our entire county to enjoy hiking the Red Rocks, hiking the Granite Dells, fishing in the Verde River, and kayaking the lakes of Prescott. Please retain LD5 as proposed and just include the rest of Sedona and Wickenburg. Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Douglas Gladys. I'm from Dewey, and I'd like to propose that we make our maps as most competitive as possible. The more competitive the districts are throughout the state, the more voter turnout and more community involvement, and the more things that everybody gets. Thank you.
My name is Diane Mcqueen, and I am a 34-year resident of Northern Arizona. I've lived in both Coconino and Yavapai counties, and I currently reside in Dewey. The ability of voters to select elected officials who they feel represent them starts with fair and competitive maps. When districts are not fair and competitive, when they don't represent all voters in the districts, we have voter suppression at its core. The draft maps that the IRC has proposed for Northern Arizona are not fair and competitive, and as such, not only promote voter suppression, but also induce voter suppression. Yavapai County is a growing county, and yet our representation will be cut in half by the IRC's proposed maps. That's voter suppression. We deserve the same number of congressional and legislative seats that we have now, even if it means splitting the county among districts. Any justification to keep Yavapai County whole falls flat on its face, given that the commission's proposed maps have already split up over 2/3 of the counties in the state. Keeping counties whole is not part of the state's constitutional requirements for redistricting, and the IRS should not be trying to introduce this as a justification. The IRC's draft maps for the proposed LDs 5, 6, 7, and the proposed CD2 are wholly uncompetitive and will induce voter suppression. As such, they should be replaced with LDF 50, LDF 51, and CDF 10 because they will promote voter involvement, not voter suppression. Thank you.
And we will go back to Kykotsmovi Village. Michelle?
I have three more speakers. The first speaker is Lorraine Coyne, Senator Jamesita Peshlakai, Glen Peaches.
Good morning. My name is Lorraine. My family and I, including my tribal nation, the Hopi Tribe, deserve to have our voices heard and to have fair representation in our state and federal governments. I am happy with our current Congressman Tom O'Halloran, CD1. He understands tribal communities and understands our needs. Our ability as tribes to elect our candidates of choice has been a hard-won process for many years, and we can't go backwards. We may have small population numbers, but this should not discount us. Any changes to my congressional district that decreases or severely limits my chances to elect my candidate of choice is wrong. I want a fair shot at electing a candidate who actually listens to us, follows through on working with tribe, and doesn't discount or hurt tribes. I want to be able to elect leaders like Congressman Tom O'Halloran. The idea that a highly Republican district or a Republican candidate elect leader being accountable to Native Americans in my district is misleading and deceptive, especially now that Republicans in Arizona have already passed laws that already make it harder for communities like mine to vote. The IRC cannot break up tribal voting powers, nor try to dilute our voting power. The IRC has to keep my district competitive. That means not including Prescott and Yavapai County. Thank you.
Senator Peshlakai.
Yat a ben chick a doshitana shas twishzanish telket jk. I am Senator Jamesita May Peshlakai. I am a member of the Navajo Nation and reside in the Western Agency of the Navajo Nation. And I am the first Native American woman senator in the Arizona State Legislature. I just would like to say and remind the folks in our state and our community that the very first Native American senator in the state of Arizona was Arthur Hubbard Sr. He was a Navajo code talker, and he was elected in the early 1970s. And it took 60 years for Arizona to elect somebody from our populations. And since 1972 to this moment in 2021, we have only had 8 Native American senators when there have been thousands and thousands of non-Native American senators and legislators. The draft maps that are being considered as a final map would do a great disservice to our populations of interest. As Native Americans, we only make up a small percentage of Arizona, but that is not our fault. This is our sacred homelands, and we have fought to defend it for so very long. We need to have our voices heard, sent to the Arizona legislature to create a Native American Indigenous Peoples Caucus to keep that with members, and then also congressional district that is competitive. The folks that are here speaking have spoken eloquently about the need for fair and just representation from northeastern Arizona. And it is we hope and that that the IRC is responsive to our voice. We're not a large population, but we are vital to the state of Arizona. And we want to thank I want to thank the IRC for all your work. I know this is a volunteer post that you have taken. There's only 5 of you, and the pressure upon you is immense. But I would like to say, as I stand here today in the Hopi land, and I view on the mesas from here, the longest and continuously inhabited community of over 3,000 years here in North America. And our voices, that of the indigenous people, is critical to the success and the future of not only Arizona, but the entire United States. Ejihat.
Yate, my name is Glen Peaches, and first I would like to Yate, my name is Glen Peaches. First, I would like to acknowledge the hard work and sacrifice of the Independent Redistricting Committee. I and my family thank each and every one of you. I am a resident of Western Navajo, and I am here to speak for myself, my elders, children, grandchildren that will be impacted by your decision. I ask you to change your draft maps that I consider makes my congressional district non-competitive. It is currently very competitive. I ask you to give our Native American citizens a fair chance to elect congressional candidates that will listen to us. I ask you to adopt CDF 010 map for congressional map. I ask you to accept LDF 050 and LDF 051 for legislative district 6 and 7. Respectfully, we cannot go back to 1947. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, that concludes the speakers for Kykotsmovi.
Thank you, Michelle. I will call our next speakers for Prescott Valley. We will begin with Sedona City Council Member Cathy Kinsella, followed by David Brill, then Carolyn Sherman, Rita Day, Vivian Perry, and the Marlene Barrington. Thank you.
I presume that it was. We have a timer, and we will let our staff member know to make sure that it's enforced. That is absolutely our intention.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I am Cathy Kinsella, City Council member from Sedona. The Sedona Council unanimously adopted support of maps LD050 and LD051. These maps actually help bring communities together, which I believe is the goal of the Independent Redistricting Commission as stated in the constitutional amendment. This keeps communities of interest together. It keeps Sedona whole and as one and not split between two, which would dilute our voice in the election process and the legislative process. We urge that you do please adopt those maps, LD050 and LD051. It is important that competitiveness is a word that's been thrown around a lot during these hearings. I've been to several of them. I've heard people talk about it, but let's talk about a synonym for competitive, which is fair. Districts that keep people together, neighbors together as a voice for a community are fair. That keep communities together with communities of interest, the places with which we share our housing, our commerce, our tourism, our all walks of life, our culture, our geography, our history. That's fair. Keeping something together that allows a political voice to come forward, that doesn't ensure one-party representation for the next 10 years, but rather leads to competitiveness and fairness, that's fair. So again, you can not please everybody, that is abundantly clear, but you could also displease everybody. So I'm asking you to please keep in mind that communities need to be kept together. Keep in mind that Sedona wants to be as one that's been a unified voice from all aspects of our community. And please keep us together with our communities of interest in the Verde Valley and Flagstaff. Thank you very much for your time. It's appreciated.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Brill. I live in Prescott, and I want to thank you for your hard work. I'm speaking for LDO 50 and LDO 51 because I want to make the principle of showing respect for the mountains that divide these two cultures clearly into two separate communities of interest, one with winemakers and the other with miners who don't want to be dominated by the other. And yes, they share a watershed, but one gets the water that's left over after the other takes it, and they deserve their separate voice on those water rights. Respect for the independent citizens who want fair and competitive districts that don't promote radicals who can't talk to anybody outside of their own party. Respect for the compactness and contiguity of that map, of those two maps. Respect for the Republic's founders who wanted fair and competitive elections. And especially respect for the citizens of the Verde Valley, as has been represented several times by their elected government here. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Carolyn Sherman, and I'm a resident and voter of Yavapai County. In the years I've lived here, it is very often that I shop and recreate in the cities throughout Yavapai County and local communities, including Sedona, Red Rock, Clarkdale, Jerome, Cottonwood, and Camp Verde. I consider this proposal to transfer the Verde Valley out of Yavapai County to be inappropriate for many reasons, since this area is all part of our local community. Given the increasing development going on in Yavapai County, of particular concern is the water supply. My opinion aligns with that of Mary Mallory regarding the watershed. As far as issues of water in particular, moving the Verde Valley communities on the district boundary map out of Yavapai County would be unfair and deny the residents of these communities the proper representation regarding matters relating to the future of their water supply. There have been many people showing up to recent hearings in support of the transfer of the Verde Valley out of Yavapai County jurisdiction. From their recent testimony, I believe their interests are politically and partisan motivated, which should not and must not influence the development of the legislative district maps. I ask that you follow the Arizona Constitution in its entirety and keep the current Yavapai County communities, including all of Sedona and Wickenburg, in LD5 together as one. Thank you.
I'm Vivian Perry. I grew up on ranches in Skull Valley and Mayer. I consider myself a part of the Western community of interest that is focused on Prescott and includes the Wickenburg community. There's a separation both by community focus, services, and primarily the divide created by the Mingus Mountains, as has been noted. that separates western Yavapai County from the folks in Verde Valley, Cottonwood, and Sedona, who are more closely aligned with Flagstaff and northeastern Arizona. Even the IRC Commission finds it necessary to hold hearings on both sides of the Mingus Mountains. The IRC has found it necessary to split 12 of the 15 counties in Arizona in their draft maps. County lines are not the factor, and it does not serve the interest of the people in our part of Arizona to use Yavapai County lines as a basis. I strongly support the LDF 50 and LDF 51 maps, which are more compact than the current legislative draft map, and don't split the cities of Sedona, Flagstaff, and Wickenburg. I also support the CDF 10 map, which was created by the Navajo Nation and honors voting rights.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rita Day, and I've lived in Arizona for over 10 years, with the last 5 years being in Prescott. I feel that the mapping team has failed miserably in providing Northern Arizona with not even one competitive district. The vote spread of the Northern Arizona district maps range from 28.5% for LD5 to 48.5% for LD30. In contrast, LDF 50, submitted by the public, has less than 1% vote spread. This would be the most competitive LD in the state. Furthermore, it keeps Flagstaff and Sedona whole and includes the Verde Valley, which residents overwhelmingly prefer based on their testimony at IRC hearings. Also, map CDF 10, submitted by the Navajo Nation, has a vote spread of 1%, so it is far superior to the map drawn by the mapping team. Therefore, this map should be given highest priority. Proposition 106, which created the IRC, lists 6 criteria for creating fair maps. However, competitiveness is the only criteria mentioned in the first sentence of Proposition 106, showing its importance, showing the importance of competitiveness. Competition within districts encourages moderation, while safe districts representatives have no motivation to be accountable to large portions of their constituents. Furthermore, extremism and corruption can spread more easily in safe districts. We have definitely seen a rise in extremism in the last few election cycles. So this is a major concern for our state and country. So please substitute competitive maps LDF 50, LDF 51, and CDF 10 for the maps drawn by the mapping team, as they are far superior. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Marlene Barrington. I live in the Dewey area. To win a competitive district, both parties must put forth their best candidates, those who listen to the voters and respond with innovative ideas and programs and debate them in public. Voters become engaged again in the political process, their government, their communities, and their elections. They vote in greater numbers and expect more of their elected officials. All of that leads to more effective and responsive governance. But you only get that when you have districts that are competitive. Prop 106 was passed so Arizona would have fair and competitive maps. The current draft maps drawn by you fall far short of this mandate. Only 4 of the 9 congressional districts are competitive. And of the 30 legislative districts, only 6 are competitive. The other 24 are safe districts, 13 Republican and 11 Democrat. A full 80% of the legislative districts are dysfunctional, the kind that the old legislatures might have drawn. Commissioners, thank you for your service, and I ask that you have a big job to do.
Thank you. Our next group of speakers are Cindy Wagner, Linda Thompson, Richard Thompson, Gail Cook, and Lois Cage.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Cindy Wagner, and I live in Prescott. I am retired and a volunteer in the community. I am concerned at the direction the IRC is taking with the draft maps for Northern Arizona. The Northern Arizona maps create districts that are non-competitive and would make them safe for one party. This defies Proposition 106. The northern districts seem to have been gerrymandered out of compliance with several of the constitutional criteria, specifically competitiveness, compactness, and communities of interest. Elected representatives will have no motivation to be accountable to large sections of their constituents. Our congressional district is being redrawn to dilute progressive votes. Prescott and the Quad Cities should remain intact and not be paired with communities with which we have nothing in common. All my needs are met in Prescott, such as medical care, shopping, recreation, education, and cultural events. I don't go over the mountain for these things. Mingus Mountain separates the Quad Cities from Verde Valley, Sedona, and Flagstaff. There are desperate needs that cannot be served by a single community college location or a single jail or a single sheriff's office. There are separate ones of each on opposite sides of Mingus Mountain. The Coconino County Supervisor's Alternative Maps LFD 50, 51, and Navajo Nation CDF 10 perform much better under all the Commission's requirements. The draft maps remove half of Yavapai County's representation. I urge you to change the maps to be more competitive. Best candidates emerge when all voices are heard. I agree with Dr. Brill, Rita Day, Kelly Barisa, Vivian Perry, Diane McQueen. Thank you for your efforts and time.
Hello, I'm Linda Thompson. I live in Prescott and happy to be there. I'm going to actually say very little because I would like to say I agree with our future mayor, Phil Good, and Lois Ford and Connie Martin. And I don't know who the gentleman was with the cowboy hat, but loved what he had to say. I just wanted to say I'm very much in support of the 10.0 draft and completely thrilled that we're still going to be LD1. Thank you.
Madam Commissioner and Madam Chair, I'm sorry, and Commissioners. First of all, I'd like to commend you for your work. I looked online at your schedule, and I don't know how you do it, but 1 or 2 towns in every day, it's amazing. I want to say also, I agree with Phil Good and the many other speakers who made the point that the cities, the Big Cheetah watershed have so much in common, including Prescott and Camp Verde and the Verde Valley. So I think it's important that they stay together, and I support the 10.0 map. Thank you. Richard Thompson, Prescott.
Good morning. Lois Case had to leave, and she wanted me to tell you that she agrees with David Brill. My name is Gail Cook, and I have lived in Prescott for 3 years and lived in Chino Valley, 13 miles to the north, for 23 years. I'm asking for fairness. That's it. The point of Proposition 106 was to take the redistricting duties away from a partisan state legislature and create a bipartisan independent commission to make the redistricting process fair. You have already heard from 1,000 voters that the latest redistricting draft map is textbook example of gerrymandering, and the constitutional guidelines are not being met. When I moved to Arizona 26 years ago, I felt my vote and my opinion mattered and counted. Now I feel my vote and opinion mean nothing because the people who are supposed to represent me will get reelected and be celebrated by their party no matter what they say or do or don't do. The elected officials who are supposed to represent me don't need my vote. We need legislative representation that is accountable. Maybe we could again expect behavior and demeanor from our elected officials that is, for the most part, professional, stable, and at the very least, civilized. At this point, Yavapai is not a competitive county, and it would be difficult, but not impossible to make it so. Competitive districts benefit everyone because we have a better pool of candidates for all parties. At this point, we depend on other competitive districts in Arizona. There are areas in northern Arizona that can be made more competitive. Please consider again LDF 50, LDF 51, and CDF 10. Please, all I'm asking for is fairness. Isn't that the whole point of redistricting? Thank you for your kind attention and thank you for holding these public hearings.
Thank you. Our next group of speakers will be Deborah Pernice, Julie Pinzola, Mike Sullivan, Ruth Edwards, and Dwight Kadar.
And we will take about a 5+ minute break after this round of speakers for the transcriptionists and for the rest of us as well.
Yes, good morning. I guess it's still morning. Yes. My name is Deborah Pernice, and I guess my voter name is Deborah Pernice Neffel as registered. That's the gentleman there with the black hat. I'm like him. I came here from Orange County, California. When I came here 3 years or 4 years ago, and I saw the downtown Prescott area, it looked like the place that I grew up in. Unfortunately, I'm like this gentleman says, I see Prescott and Yavapai County being divided up, and as proposed by these people that want fairness or competitiveness. Well, I spent over 30 years practicing law in Orange County, California, and a good part of that time I was in public service as a city attorney in Anaheim. And I just have to say that I do not want to see Yavapai County split up and become like, South Coast Plaza was a bean field when I moved there. So is that what we want? Is that what's called competitiveness? Anyway, my brother came out here to visit with me the other a month or so ago, and we drove to Sedona. And I don't understand what's this about mountains and a dividing line and that. I thought I moved to this beautiful rural community, and that's what I'm with Mayor Good and the other Lois and Councilman Rusing. I concur with them. Let's keep this county together and let's keep it the way it's supposed to be. And with the common cultural and natural resources that we've shared. I don't want to go into the same litany that everybody else has, but water is a huge issue. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Julie Pinzola, retired Prescott Planning Manager. I graduated from NAU in Geography and Geology back when Sedona was larger than Prescott Valley. I'm speaking to you again with growing alarm. It becomes difficult not to get pointed because the IRC is not heeding our insistent calls for fairness and competitiveness. We here in Northern Arizona know only too well what overly safe districts can bring on. One feels at the mercy of predetermined elections over and over again. Please reflect on this and find the wisdom of Solomon to pull our state out of the national spotlight of accelerating divisiveness. Arizona could be the gold standard for how to do this right if we can get more competitive districts and far fewer safe districts. In our part of the state, a great many of us want a competitive LD7, and that means including the Verde Valley with Flagstaff. This does not hurt the so-called sovereignty of Yavapai County, and it does not change how people are taxed, recreate, or receive public services. People are being manipulated by such statements. As many of the other counties and cities are being split, Yavapai County cannot be held sacrosanct. The historic Verde Valley Enclave and its legitimate COI, Community of Interest, could maintain its unique voice, particularly with regard to its lower Verde River water user status, which is a real thing, and it is separate from the Prescott AMA. The drought makes this even more critical. Reinstating the lines as they are today means Yavapai County can have double the representation, again, just like it has now. Please move the line back to Mingus Mountain and let Central Yavapai County align with its natural COI, Mojave County. This applies for both the LD and CD districts. Again, please take seriously the Coconino County LDF 50 and 51 guide maps and Navajo Nation's CDF 10. Thank you so very much.
My name is Mike Sullivan, and I live in Clarkdale, Arizona. And I wanted to just bring up a couple points that, first of all, I totally agree with the Mayor Feelgood and keeping the legislative district, the draft 10.0, because there's several key issues. And I think, excuse me, I think the biggest is the water issue. The Big Chino Aquifer, like they've talked about, starts the headwaters, and then I'm on the side of the mountain where the Verde River is. That's the second longest river in Arizona, too, and we need to protect that. Any way we look at it, we need to protect it. And I look at Prescott as my extended community, too. I drive over the mountain, I recreate, I do some shopping here, things that we don't have on the other side of the mountain. I think there's too many things that we align together with in the Verde Valley and in addition to Prescott that it doesn't make sense to try and keep us apart. I drive over that mountain twice a week. I play softball over here. It's the mountain itself. There's 158 turns, but nobody seems to worry about it coming over that mountain. It does well for us. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm very supportive of the community colleges working together too. We have the college over there with the viticulture, and there's a lot of commonalities, and we're both growth communities. So I think it's going forward, it's in our best interest to keep the plan as it's drafted now at the 10.0. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Ruth Edwards, and I'm from Clarkdale, Arizona. I'm really glad there's a couple of us who actually came from the Verde Valley, since everybody seems to be speaking for us. And I'd like to remind the commissioners that Sedona does not speak for the entire Verde Valley. There are a lot of other communities that, and quite frankly, we never go to Sedona. We don't go to Flagstaff, and we don't go to Sedona. In fact, when I first found out these meetings were being held, there was one in Flagstaff at 4 p.m. on a weekday. And I got a couple of neighbors who would have liked to go. And we don't drive to Flagstaff at 4 p.m. on a weekday. I mean, the traffic's horrible. I-17 is a mess. We don't go to Sedona. But, you know, I'd like to remind the commission that a couple of people mentioned Jerome and Sedona as all over the Verde Valley. I'd like to remind the commission that there's Cornville, Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Clarkdale, and a couple of smaller communities out as well. And they are all rural. They are low income. They are underprivileged. And they have no connection to Flagstaff and very little to Sedona, although I understand why Sedona would want to be kept in the Verde Valley. But it seems to be, listening to the people from the Sedona elected officials, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want both their community of interest, and then they want their districts up in We'd like to stay with Prescott. We think the 10.0 map is great. We drove over today. I'm going to go pick up my Thanksgiving turkey at Natural Grocers. We'll go to Costco, go visit son-in-law, go back home. This is our community of interest. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Dwight Kadar. I live in the Verde Valley and in Yavapai County. I want to thank you personally, Chairman Newberg, for all your hard work and the commission to redraw these lines. At the public hearings in Flagstaff and Cottonwood, and again at Friday's virtual meeting, many residents' testimonies continued the drumbeat to adopt Coconino County Board of Supervisors maps. Almost all resident statements include the rationale it was to make the districts more competitive. This rationale is troubling as the commission's primary charges are to create districts of nearly equal populations, district lines that strive to unite communities of interest, consider geographic boundaries, and avoid diluting minority voting rights. The least important is competitive districts. There has been little, if any, mention about the adoption of the board maps that would impact other districts. The carve out of Coconino County's city of Flagstaff, combined with Yavapai County's Verde Valley, would significantly overpopulate District 7 while underpopulating Districts 5 and 6. It would require the commission to find 30,000 residents in Maricopa or Gila counties to rebalance these districts. These changes would destroy district lines and also would dilute the minority voting rights of the native District 6. Both Gila and Navajo County have stated they are satisfied with the current maps. It is clear this has clearly been an orchestrated attempt to ambush the independent redistricting process. One can only draw the conclusion that these residents are asking for the adoption of the Coconino County maps, do not understand, and frankly, do not care about the impact on the rest of us counties. And it's all about gerrymandering districts for a desired result. The commission has currently drawn the Yavapai County map correctly, in my opinion, and I respectfully request that you hold the line and vote for the current map. Thank you.
It's about 11:25. We'll take a 5-minute break with the transcriptionist and return at 11:30. Thank you. Hello, we will begin momentarily. If everyone could take their seat, thank you. You're on TV? Great. How about you? I will call up our next group of speakers. The next speakers will be Andrea Gatar, Patrick Leeper, Peter Asensio, Jeffrey Parker, Sandra Ritter, and Bill Ritter.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I'm Andrea Kadar. It's a pleasure to see you again. I've lived in the Verde Valley for 10 years, and I thank you for your excellent sportsmanship. You truly do have the patience of Job. Let me do this quickly, and this is for the record. After attending the Flagstaff and Cottonwood hearings on the maps created for LDs 5, 6, and 7 and CD2, I simply must ask a rhetorical question. Who's responsible for drawing the legislative and congressional district maps? You are. Not the Coconino County Board of Supervisors and not the mayors and city council members of Sedona or Flagstaff. At earlier hearings, we did not hear a single resident of either Yuma or Maricopa counties refer to maps submitted by their Board of Supervisors. But in the Flagstaff and Cottonwood hearings, they lined up to request that you adopt maps submitted by a partisan county board. This is really important. None of us heard how this would impact or complicate or negatively impact other districts. Word picture, if you squeeze a balloon at one end, you're going to distort the other end. It's clear to me that this was an orchestrated effort to rally partisan support for a partisan map. We reasonable Yavapai County residents stand firmly against this process, this attempt to usurp the IRC process from you all. The AZ draft map 10.0 for LD 5, 6, and 7 and CD2 should stand. Hours of testimony since last summer support this. You, ladies and gentlemen, drew the maps correctly, and we greatly, greatly appreciate you for it. Amen.
Thank you, Commission. My name is Pete Asensio. I live in the Verde Valley, and I live specifically in Rimrock. I am on a board, a community association board there. Last Tuesday and Wednesday, I came in contact with over 200 people because I help deliver food to these people that need it. A lot of us, we do our shopping in Camp Verde, Cottonwood, and Prescott. I go to Costco's, I go to Sportsman's Warehouse, I go to Joe's, whatever his name is. Trader Joe's, thank you. So I agree with Andrea Kadar, what she had to say, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm Jeffrey Parker, a concerned citizen of Yavapai County and a veteran of 27 years. First, I thank the commissioners for their dedication to community service, their diligence, and contribution of time and talent to serve us all. Their outcome with MAPS version 10 reflects very well the criteria they were charged to apply here. The commissioners have correctly drawn Yavapai County as its own legislative district. When it comes to communities of interest, it should be of no surprise that political boundaries of a county in a rural area should become a community of interest. While within these boundaries, we vote for county representatives, we live under shared governance by consent of the governed. We share in the collection of taxation and expenditures of revenues to meet the needs across the county. Such shared governance includes water resources, education, law enforcement, community services, roads, transportation infrastructure, and the integration of policies between Yavapai County cities, and much more. No, this is not circular reasoning. It is the design and the intent of such entities framed by those who laid out our boundaries long ago. We proudly identify, as we should, as American citizens, citizens of Arizona, citizens of Yavapai, of our county. Those who in 1891 drew this county's boundaries would surely be pleased with the community Yavapai County has become today. As a result, Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, Dewey Humboldt, Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Rimrock, Jerome, and Sedona, communities of interest constituting the community of interest we call Yavapai County. Any outcome other than shared representation would be unnatural as recognized under criteria that govern the IRC, especially given our population size. Arguments presented for other district boundaries based on being competitive in any partisan sense have no overriding standing under our Constitution. I thank you for your time.
I want to thank the Independent Redistricting Commission, first of all, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Sandy Ritter. I'm a resident of Yavapai County, having moved here just 1 year ago. I'm very concerned about the redistricting proposal in the county that I now call my home. The Verde Valley has significant ranching and farming economies, much like that of Yavapai County. We have a rural environment with Western heritage. It is unlike other big cities of Arizona, such as Flagstaff. We want to maintain the rural environment and have much in common with areas such as Clarkdale, Cottonwood, and Sedona. I spent more than 20 years as a university professor and have found the Yavapai Community College to be a very impressive educational institution. It meets the needs of Prescott and of the surrounding communities. Its main campus is in Prescott. However, the satellite campuses in Clarkdale and Sedona provide educational opportunities to the graduates of the surrounding 3 Verde High School campuses. Having a granddaughter that received an education from Yavapai Community College, I can attest to the importance of having a good foundation in preparation for further education. It is important that the culture of these rural communities be maintained and well connected, and the students of the Yavapai County schools be given the educational opportunities that are provided in a rural environment. We have much in common with other communities in Yavapai County, and our towns and cities must not be divided. So we request that we maintain the rural Western community culture as outlined in the current 10.0 draft LD map by the Redistricting Commission. Thank you.
I am Bill Ritter, a concerned citizen of Prescott, Yavapai County. Thank you, the members of the Independent Redistricting Commission, for allowing me to speak on this subject. Although I have only lived in Arizona for 1 year, my daughter and son-in-law have been in Arizona for over 30 years and made many trips to this area. In addition, through my involvement in the gem and mineral industry, I've spent the last 40 years in Tucson for 3 weeks every January and February. I wanted to live here in Prescott, Yavapai County, because of the rural Western ambience and the feeling of community. My first question at the Chamber of Commerce was regarding the water supply. Water is the lifeblood of this great area. I have learned that according to the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality and Big Chino Basin and Verde Valley are part of the same watershed. Flagstaff is not. It is the part of the Little Colorado watershed with very different water issues than the Verde Valley. Water is a central issue to the future of all Yavapai County residents. We need elected representation who are responsible for owning and working the entire watershed issues for us. Mingus Mountain does not divide our watershed. After reviewing the many different proposed maps, the commission really got it right with the current 10.0 draft LD map. This map adheres to all 6 criteria in the Arizona Constitution and does not emphasize competitiveness at the expense of the other 5 criteria. Yavapai County is compact with sizable communities of interest. Please do not bifurcate this community. Thank you.
Hi, is Patrick Leeper? He was the next speaker. Is he here? Okay, if he's not here. The next group of speakers are Carl Shadle, Elizabeth Gatley, Michael Cosentino, Elizabeth Kennedy, and Kitty Harris. Are any of the speakers here? Doesn't matter what order. Step up.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for all the really hard work you're doing. I, as well as the other gentleman, came from California. I was involved very heavily 11 years ago with the Redistricting Commission there, trying to help the smaller rural communities survive. And unfortunately, they did not. So I moved here, and I'm hoping to keep this community as it is. I agree with the council member and Mayor-elect Goody and several others that we need to keep Yavapai County as a complete and whole district for water issues and many other reasons. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Liz Kennedy, a concerned citizen from Prescott Valley in Yavapai County. And I want to thank you all for all your hard work that you've been doing since the census. People live here in Yavapai County because of the small town feel and weather and the beautiful surroundings. I totally concur with Supervisor Mary Mallory and Andrea Kadar with their statements. We are better as a whole, not divided. We have common interests on both sides of that beautiful mountain. We want to keep Yavapai County whole, including Sedona and Wickenburg. I really appreciate your map 10. No Maricopa County here in Yavapai, please. Why chop us up like Maricopa? I implore you to respect the interests of Yavapai County's residents and its communities. Thank you.
Good morning, IRC. I'm Michael Cosentino. I've lived in northern Arizona all my adult life. That's 50 years, and Yavapai County for most of them, over 40 years. My comments today address mostly community of interest and competitiveness requirement. I do not support the current proposed maps. Although I am politically active, my comments today are personal. Last Tuesday in the Verde Valley, the vast majority of speakers spoke in favor of keeping Sedona, Cottonwood, the Verde Valley, Flagstaff, and I'm going to include the First Nations communities together. Why the Yavapai County Board of Supervisor for the representative of Prescott is speaking and telling the Verde Valley what to do, I don't know. But I do know that that's part of the problem, of a decades-old problem between Prescott and the Verde Valley. I've lived in Flagstaff, Sedona, Cottonwood, and Page. I spent 9 years in the military, 5 of those years in the Arizona Army National Guard. My training was centered in Flagstaff, and I believe it's still that way. Education was in Flagstaff, work was in Sedona, cultural events were Flagstaff and Sedona. As a Cottonwood resident, my children were born in Flagstaff and Cottonwood and continue to use those healthcare facilities almost exclusively. I spoke before this commission 10 years ago on the same point. I wasn't heard then. Hopefully, all of us will be heard a little clearer now. The radicalization of Mike Cosentino goes directly with the lack of representation I have felt. Thank you.
Hello, I am Kitty Harris. I live in Cottonwood, but like today, I come to Prescott frequently. First, the current draft of your RLD is simple and well-defined. Thank you. I object to those who would destroy this configuration and align the Verde Valley with Flagstaff rather than Western Yavapai County. I am retired and very much at home in the Verde Valley. Whether hiking the Mingus Mountain trails or at Red Rock in Sedona, dining on waffles at Violet's in Clarkdale, enjoying the area's many festivities, serving on a jury in Prescott, solving home maintenance issues with experts in Cottonwood or Prescott, or as an avid reader using the Yavapai Library Network, everything is within easy reach. Finally, in the past 3 years, I have been to Flagstaff once and Phoenix 3 times. They are places I visit or travel through, but do not consider home. Thank you for letting me put in my 2 cents worth, and thank you for your hard work.
And one last call for Carl Shadle. No? The next group of speakers, and please come up in any order. Nicholas Solano, Leslie Kirkeld, Lynn Zonakis, Craig Swanson, and Mark Smith.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lynn Zanakis. I live in the city of Sedona. I'm greatly concerned regarding the current maps for LD 5, 6, and 7. I'd written up comments, but so many people have spoken about this that I'll just reference them. I am in full agreement with Councilwoman Kinsella Williamson and City Manager Karen Osborne from the city of Sedona, that the communities of Sedona, Verde Valley, and Flagstaff stay together as a community of interest. We need our voice, and it'll be lost if combined with Prescott. As you heard from one of the most recent speakers, at the Cottonwood meeting, the vast majority of speakers from our community support the LDF 50 and LDF 51 maps. This isn't just a political elected politicians, but it's the people of these communities that support these maps. I'm even more greatly concerned by the lack of competitiveness in the current maps. Democracy works best when we all have a voice. These new maps are a virtual laryngectomy for the minority party and independent voters. Competitiveness is at the heart of democracy and ensures we all have a say in the direction our local, state, and national government takes. These maps will promote complacency and when you lose competitive districts, you lose the ability to have the dialogue so necessary to democracy. Please follow the Arizona constitutional mandates of competitiveness and communities of interest in this. I ask you to correct these oversights and ensure communities of interest and competitiveness is maintained. Thank you.
My name is Craig Swanson. I live in the Verde Valley, and I represent Keep Sedona Beautiful, an organization that's worked for 50 years to protect the environment of the Verde Valley. We're greatly concerned that our community of interest, the environmental community, is being disadvantaged by the current proposed maps. In the next iteration of your redistricting map,
You need to keep all of Sedona in a single district, and as I'm sure you've realized by now. Equally important is to recognize that Sedona and the Verde Valley share interests more strongly with Flag than they do with Prescott in the expansive area west of the Mingus Mountain. Yavapai County was created on November 9th, 1864. It reflected a unified population then, but in the intervening 157 years, much has changed. County boundaries are an artifact, and they don't define a community of interest. As you adjust the current maps in order to draw truly competitive districts, Keep Sedona Beautiful urges you to revisit proposed maps LD 50 and 51 and CDF 10, and keep Sedona and the Verde Valley in the same legislative district as Flagstaff as we are now. It's a false dichotomy to ask Sedona to choose between staying whole and linked to the Verde Valley or being linked to Flagstaff. You have one of the most important assignments in our state. Redistricting impacts the very heart and soul of our democracy. You have a duty to perform redistricting in a completely nonpartisan and objective manner. You are the independent redistricting commission. Please use the power you have with the utmost care. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you, Chairwoman Newberg and Commissioners, for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Mark Smith, and I have lived in Arizona since the late 1950s. My wife and I are new 2-year residents of Yavapai County, living north of Prescott in the Williamson Valley area, zip code 86305. I grew up in the West Phoenix area of Maryvale from the late 1950s to the late 1970s. We lived in Glendale from the late 1970s and moved to Avondale in the mid-1990s. This brief personal history is to demonstrate that I am invested in the state of Arizona and the communities that I reside. When I became of legal age to vote in the mid-1970s, I began to see how districts where I lived were not represented by my beliefs and values that aligned with the local communities. A true example was the redistricting that took place more than 10 years ago that aligned far northeast Avondale with the Southern District of Tucson. Avondale should not have been part of Southern District Tucson. This is my concern with the proposed redistricting maps now presented. I believe all of Yavapai County, the cities, towns, rural communities, and outlying areas should remain continuous with Yavapai County and not be fractioned off to other districts. We pay taxes in Yavapai County and support businesses within the county. Separating areas of Yavapai County reduces our ability to tell officials how to spend our tax dollars. Coconino County Board of Supervisors does not represent Yavapai County. Black Canyon City should remain whole as the town of Yavapai County and not split into other counties. Thank you very much.
And Nicholas Solong, is he here, or Solano? How about Leslie Kirkide? Kirkide?
I just say, like to thank you also for your work, because I know we appreciate it, and every 10 years it's done, and lots of very important work is underappreciated. I would be very short. I really agreed with this lovely little lady with the hat who loves the interlibrary library, because I don't think that's gotten enough play. And in Yavapai County, when you live there, you can get books from anywhere else in Yavapai County. I'm a voracious reader, and I love that feature. I love Yavapai County. The one thing I'm very confused about is so many people today commenting on the complacency. And it's my understanding, since I've lived here, that Yavapai County votes at a higher rate than any other county in the state of Arizona. Very, very high. Let's keep Yavapai County together. Thank you. I know it's hard to pronounce.
Our next group of speakers, and please come up in any order, Kristen Baumgartner, John Lutz, Karen Strach, Ernie Strach, and Kathleen Bauer or Sauer. I'm not sure. Thank you.
Hello, Commission. My name is John Lutz. I'm a downtown Prescott businessman and owner who's been on Whiskey Row for 40 plus years, a place whose flair for Western heritage is matched regionally only by Wickenburg. Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, Yavapai County is growing at an unprecedented rate. We have the highest rate of growth in northern Arizona. Currently, Yavapai County is represented by 2 congressional districts, 2 legislative districts. Dual representation benefits Yavapai County. The draft maps presented by the IRC cut both our congressional and legislative representation in half. As the most populated county in northern Arizona and the fastest growing, our interests are better protected if we have more representation, not less. By having 2 representatives in Congress, our access to federal support is doubled. By having 6 representatives in the state legislature, we have more voices advocating for our rural interests in Phoenix. It's more important for Yavapai County to maintain its high level of representation as we look toward the challenges of the future. Our Western heritage of democracy is best served by creating competitive districts. The only 2 highly competitive legislative districts in the current draft map proposals are both in Scottsdale. Northern Arizona also deserves a competitive LD, and it's possible to do. The LDF 050 map would be the most competitive LD proposed, and it better meets the criteria of being compact and contiguous than the current proposed IRC draft map. Plus, it keeps Sedona and Flagstaff whole, which both of those cities want.
Hello, my name is Kristen Baumgartner, and I've been a resident of Prescott now for 7 years. I'm here today to urge you to make communities of interest your priority rather than so much of the competitiveness that we've heard today. Yavapai County should continue to be kept together as currently proposed in LD5 in the district map. I thank the commissioners for recognizing that. Many people ahead of me have already talked about the special areas of community of interest, specifically Supervisor Oberg, Mary Mallory, the gentleman from California in the hat, and Mr. Kadar. So I'm not going to repeat that, but I do want to say that we need to be kept together. Flagstaff is a college town. 19,000 resident students live there. How can their priorities be focused on the Verde Valley? They've got to worry about all those students and the young people that live there. There's also been a lot of talk about gerrymandering, and that is a concern that I have, and I hope that's not the case. But I do think you should not be swayed by the people who do not live in Yavapai County when it comes to the citizens here, and that you let us be worried about the decisions made here in our county and not be pulled away. Please keep our county together, and thank you for all the hard work that you've done.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Stroud, and I live in the Coconino portion of Sedona. I want to thank all of the commission for their hard work. We've watched online, and it's a marathon that you do, and then you come and listen to us speak besides. So thank you, thank you. I've heard a number of comments today regarding non-competitiveness. I'd like to address an associated issue of fairness. I'm actually a pretty decent football fan. I enjoy the strategy, tactics, and mental attitudes that I observe during a game. What would not seem fair to me would be to start a game with one touchdown, one team, 4 touchdowns, 28 points ahead of the other. Wouldn't you agree? The draft map for Legislative District 5 has one party over 28 points ahead of the other before an election is even held. To me, and I hope to you, that just isn't fair. Thank you.
Commissioners, I'm Ernie Strau, former Vice Mayor of Sedona. You've heard from me in Sedona, Flagstaff, Cottonwood, now here. It's obvious that I care deeply, but today I want to talk about the elephant in the room. I know you are aware that this whole process is all about partisan party politics. You've heard it ad nauseum. One party wants things left exactly the way they are. And why wouldn't they, with an almost 30% electoral advantage? The last thing they would want is a competitive district. So you should put competitiveness at the bottom of your criteria heap. I understand, and so do you. They've been very successful so far, with 24 of the 30 legislative districts being non-competitive. The other party does not want our constitutional republic to be autocratically ruled by just one party, either one, particularly when the autocracy will be in the minority. That is guaranteed because one must add together either major party plus 1/3 independents within state elections. And we know how minority autocracy works in China and Russia. One party believes constitutional representative republic operates best when the concept of one person, one vote applies. That doesn't hold true in gerrymandered, non-competitive districts. My vote, for instance, as a decorated Vietnam veteran, will be totally meaningless. My party would not likely even field a candidate. Prop 106 hoped for something better. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Sauer and I'm from Prescott. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. The proposed draft maps have no competitive LDs in northern Arizona. This is unnecessary as the other 5 criteria mandated by the Arizona Constitution could be met and competitive districts created by the adoption of LDF 50, 51, and CDF 10. This is important because a healthy democracy requires that all voices be heard. Non-competitive districts foster extremism and corruption and disregard the voices of independent, nonpartisan voters. Anyone who is not a member of the majority party in a safe district is left feeling like they have no voice, and in fact, they do not, as representatives from such districts cater to their base voters at the exclusion of the rest of the population of the district. Competitive districts create greater interest in the democratic process, better candidates to run for office, and produce a government that is responsive to the interests and viewpoints of all constituents. We all prosper if all ideas are considered on their merits and not through a partisan lens. Finally, the adoption of LDF 50, 51, and CDF 10 would create more representation for Yavapai, a large and growing county, than the proposed draft maps. County lines for Yavapai were drawn in 1864. 2021, Yavapai encompasses multiple communities of interest not bound by the county lines. These communities are best represented by the implementation of LDF 50, 51, and CDF 10. Again, I thank you.
Our next group of speakers are Gianna Tyndall, Marlene Masick, Ken Bennett, Linda Kahn, and Jessica Ebel.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Gina Tendall, a resident of Yavapai County. I support the IRC's LD draft map with the addition to LD5 of the portions of Sedona and Wickenburg that lie outside of Yavapai County, so as not to split these into two legislative districts. I would also like to suggest a change to the IRC's CD draft map to allow for better alignment of communities of interest. On the draft map, Yavapai County is grouped into the same CD as Navajo, Apache, and parts of Graham and Greenlee counties. However, there is a major community of interest misalignment in this arrangement, that being water availability in the rural areas. Yavapai County does not have the same abundance of water as in the tribal areas. Our water resources are scarce and require very diligent and continuous management. To improve the CD map alignment, Yavapai County should be grouped in the same CD as other rural counties with similar water scarcity, those being Mojave, La Paz, Gila, and Coconino, as shown in map reference number CD 0068. These counties require congressional and legislative representation that understands and advocates for the rural areas with scarce water resources. Combining Yavapai with the tribal counties will dilute this advocacy, possibly resulting in what California is experiencing, where low water allocation to rural counties has led to fallow farms, rural bankruptcies, and rampant poverty, not to mention the significant loss of food production in the state. We don't want to go the way of California. Thank you very much for consideration of map CD 0068.
My name is Marlene Masick, and I live in the village of Oak Creek, one of the unincorporated Verde Valley communities. I support and agree with the proposed draft maps for LD5 and for CD2. Thank you, commissioners, for listening to our communities of interest and keeping our county together. You got it right. I do ask that the city of Sedona is kept in one district, and that is LD District 5. This would keep our Verde Valley communities of interest together. Verde Valley communities are better together with Prescott. It's easy to get to Prescott from the village of Oak Creek. If you live in Sedona or Cottonwood, there are different routes to Prescott. You do not need to go over Mingus Mountain via State Route 89A. Another option is via 260 to Interstate 17 and then 169 to 69. This may be 10 miles more in distance, but only a 2-minute difference in travel time according to Google Maps. This is a great option during the winter months. You don't have any options with regards to Flagstaff. You will climb to roughly 7,800 feet. Please note that the Coconino County Board of Supervisors do not represent the Verde Valley. The promotion of their draft map is nothing short of a PR attempt to impose their will against the interests of the Verde Valley residents. They do not speak for me, and the fact that they drafted and actively promoted a map demonstrates that we should not be aligned with them. Verde Valley community values and integrity are best represented by Yavapai County. I sincerely thank the members of this commission for their efforts in balancing the 6 criteria as set forth in the Arizona Constitution. And please keep us together with Prescott and Yavapai County. Thank you.
Chairwoman Newberg and members of the commission, thank you. My name is Ken Bennett. I've lived in Prescott almost my entire life, other than 3 years when I lived in Tucson, where my folks were going to the University of Arizona. So our family's been up here. Well, Grandma and Grandpa's phone number was 49 in Prescott, so we've been here a while. I am speaking in support and thanking you for your efforts. I am in support of the 10.0 draft maps. As you may know, I represented this legislative district in the state Senate for 8 years. The first 4 of those 8 years was under the maps drawn in 2001 by I think the first IRC. And those maps included Yavapai County mostly kept together. You know, everything is important in Arizona until the faucet doesn't turn on. And one of the most critical issues that we had back then was water. It was very important that both sides of Yavapai County were together, because when it came to very critical votes in the legislature related to water, I, as the representative of all of Yavapai County, had to balance the needs of both sides of the county. I believe we are still benefited from decisions that were made when people were working together within Yavapai County. We have not had that situation as far as the boundaries for the last decade or so, but I think it would be important to put Yavapai County back together, and so I support the current draft maps. I would encourage your favorable consideration of keeping Sedona and Wickenburg together by bringing them into LD5 or what will be LD1. But I think it's important to keep Yavapai County together. Thank you.
He's a tough act to follow. I'm Linda Kahn, and I'm a resident of Prescott. And I'm also an artist. I go to Sedona quite often. I go to Oak Creek. I have many friends there that I do artwork with. I belong to a gallery. I think we should keep Yavapai whole. All this competitiveness, we have competitiveness. We don't need anything more. I can't add anything more other than I agree with Ken Bennett, Andrea Kadar, and Bill Good, our mayor. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Ebel. I'm a teacher with Prescott Unified, and my husband just retired from 20 years of service with the U.S. Navy. We've put down roots in Prescott with our 2 young children. I'm here to voice my concern that these maps do not honor the will of voters, specifically the requirement from Prop 106 for fair and competitive districts. Yavapai County itself is too large to be a community of interest and does not need to be kept whole, especially at the expense of slicing and dicing actual communities such as Sedona and Wickenburg. This makes no sense. As an alternative, maps LDF 50 and LDF 51 are significantly more compact and competitive. As an independent voter, I want my vote to count. When districts are too safe, candidates cater to their base in extreme positions. We want more competitive districts in Northern Arizona with better candidates who focus on the issues and must listen to all constituents. I am deeply concerned about the growing influence of extremism, violence, and corruption. Look around our state. We already have elected officials who do not respect the boundaries between church and state, openly threaten other members of Congress, publicly support vigilante justice, refuse to accept the results of a free and fair election, and help to plan a violent insurrection at our nation's capital. Violent extremism is becoming more prevalent.
Excuse me. Audience, can we please show respect to the speaker and create an atmosphere in which every citizen in Arizona feels comfortable and welcome? Thank you.
I will finish by saying that violent extremism is becoming more prevalent, and when it is accepted in our politics, it spreads to our communities. In Prescott, we have people making threats to the members of our school board about masks. We have people coming to the square with weapons to intimidate peaceful protesters. We cannot create districts where violent or extreme candidates will be safe and therefore unaccountable. Over time, safe maps will make our state and our democracy less safe. I agree with all of the Navajo and Hopi speakers on CDF 10 and I'm asking you to consider maps LDF 50 and 51. Thank you.
Our next group of speakers are John Stevens, Robert Thal, Larry Gray, Arlene Reinfelder, and Sandy Griffiths.
Chair, Commission, good morning. I'm Sandy Griffiths, the Executive Director of Yavapai County Contractors Association. My industry, we represent over 4,000 licensed contractors in Yavapai County. We are adamantly opposed to changing the current legislative map. Moving Camp Verde, Cottonwood, those smaller communities into Coconino County would be devastating to the building code parameters under which we currently operate. There are fire codes, there's wildland urban interface codes, there are building codes that we now work with, manage, and help our community and our citizens of Yavapai County with. No familiar working relationships with Coconino County. So I appreciate your hard work, and I ask that you consider keeping the current legislative map as is for the vitality and viability of our building industry. Thank you.
Madam Chair, my name is Arlene Reinfelder. I want to thank you all, including Commissioner Mail, who I can see, for all your hard work. Man, I've watched you guys. It's been a marathon. I think you guys have done a phenomenal job. I want to tell you what I'm really proud of that you've done because it's important to me. You guys created a VRA tribal district so that our nations, the sovereign nations, can have their own voice. That's very important to me. You did the same thing in Southern Arizona. You created VRA Latino districts so that they could have a voice. Those districts, by their nature, are not necessarily going to be competitive. That is why that is not the highest criteria in Prop 106. It's at the bottom underneath communities of interest, because communities of interest is more important. And that's why some of our communities of interest are not going to be competitive. Yavapai County, God love us. We love each other. I'm so sorry for that young lady. That was inappropriate. We're better than that. That competitiveness that we've heard rattled on about, competitiveness can be important, but not when it's going to divide a community. We do need to come together, and we need to learn to be civil. And what we've seen, it's just a reflection of what's going on in our country as a whole. I do want to say that I do not support Coconino being the tail wagging the dog here. Coconino Board of Supervisors does not speak for the other 4 counties that are going to be affected. Yavapai, at least from what I could see, it's going to be Yavapai, Coconino, Gila, and Pinal counties. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Gray. I support the current 10.0 legislative district map. That proposal follows the guidelines of the Arizona Constitution, conforming to the 6 key areas, placing all these criteria on a level field without emphasizing competitiveness above the others. Placing Yavapai County one legislative district maintains the communities of interest. I've lived in Arizona since 1965. When I joined the Marines, I returned to Phoenix. Our Prescott home was completed in July of '05. I was a volunteer with the City of Prescott's Over the Hill gang, building and maintaining hiking trails. Our topography has greater similarities to Sedona and the Verde Valley than Flagstaff is one example of ecotourism, hiking in the Red Rocks. The Prescott Valley area share the Big Chino Basin and the Verde Valley watershed, unlike Flagstaff, which is part of the Little Colorado River watershed. Why should we split Yavapai Community College system between two legislative districts? Is not the community college system a community of interest? Flagstaff has a much larger population than Sedona, Verde Valley, Cottonwood, Prescott Valley, which have smaller populations, giving very similar legislative concerns. Thank you for considering my comments. Please support the draft 10.0 legislative district. Thank you very much.
And one more call for Robert Thal or John Stevens. No? Okay, our next group of speakers are Michael Sanders, Isabel Saracetis, Tom Steele, Diane Bowman, and Sandy Cordova.
Hi, I'm Michael Sanders, and I'm a 40-year-plus resident of Yavapai County in Arizona. During that period of time, I've held offices in at the national level, state, county, and local levels, including White House Conference on Small Business, multiple congressional small business summits, Washington, D.C., the industrial commissioner, twice, mayor of Chino Valley, member of the Arizona Groundwater Users Council, the governor's economic development council, and others. I'm here to support that proposition that Yavapai County remain its own legislative district, and you just bring in Sedona, the parts of Sedona and Wickenburg that are in the counties adjacent. I want to point out also that there are, and I also support, let me say I support Harry Good, excuse me, Harry Oberg, Mary Mallory, Lois Ford, and Selena Bliss. Some of the governmental jurisdictional maps for both Coconino and Maricopa support the proposition that we're all talking about. One map I want to talk about, and I showed this in Flagstaff last week, is a map of the Verde River watershed. Now I've circled here a small 45 radius economic development area with the Mingus recreational area right in the middle. That's the diamond in the jewel. And anyone that's the least bit forward thinking will see 89 as a 4-lane to be. In addition to that, this is a map drawn up by the Coconino County Board of Supervisors. I'm hearing a lot about those boys drawing maps. They drew this map. And not only does it not include Sedona, it excludes Sedona. And that is the judicial map, justice map. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Steele, and I have lived in Prescott Valley for over 18 years. And welcome to Prescott Valley, the cool valley. I spoke in the 2011 redistricting meetings, and it happened to be in Cottonwood, where I have a couple of doctors, by the way. And I was reluctant to say this, but that board was a poorly made up board that was tainted by the makeup of the commission itself. Today it is different. You make a very balanced district possible, and I support map 10. As I noticed the map, I had a question with it, and I called a very influential friend to see what is that fishhook off the left side of the map number 10, only to find out it is to incorporate a Native American tribe, which I think is in keeping with communities of interest, which is important to all of us. And I would only add to that I believe in competitiveness, and let's keep it in our retail and restaurant business. Thank you.
Buenos tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Isabel Cedesedes. I'm a lifetime Arizona resident and a 13-year resident of Prescott Valley. Prescott Valley, and the Quad Cities are my home community. I'm a retired 35-year government employee. Being independent is a choice I have made because my preference is to research and make my own determination each election as to who best represents me, my values, and my vision for a better life and future. I'm a fiscal conservative, and I don't like extremism. That has caused a lot of problems in society today. All people have the right to enjoy their life and be in peace where they live. Being able to put food on the table and get a good education in local communities is most important, not counties. Everything I need is here. I never go to Cottonwood. There is nothing there I need. The Verde Valley is distant to me as Wickenburg. I am concerned that independent voters are not taken into consideration in your draft maps, and that too many districts too strongly favor one party or another. It doesn't seem fair and equitable to independent voters like me when only 6 of 30 legislative maps are competitive. I'd really like it if you took the time to review the maps and create more competitive districts so voters like me have a greater chance for representation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your work.
My name is Diane Bowman. I'm a resident in Prescott. I've worked for APS my entire career and in every northern Arizona community that there is. And I want to make a statement about these Coconino maps. I really don't think that the Coconino Board of Supervisors were trying to get in our way. What they were trying to show the IRC was that there is a way to make competitive, compact, all the other 5 criteria that are there. It is possible. And that's what I'm so concerned about, is the lack of competitiveness in 24 out of the 30 districts in this state. Not only here, but the rest of the state. I think all of those maps need to be looked at again and get to a point where at least we're between 15%. Right now, you know, Yavapai here is at 42%. That's unacceptable. Yavapai County's 2 congressional districts will be reduced to 1 safe red district, like it's always been. It's not competitive. Of all the northern counties, Yavapai is growing the fastest. We have 40% more population than Coconino County, and our growth rate is 1.68%. We deserve more representation, not less. LD 50 keeps Flagstaff and Sedona whole and includes the Verde Valley. It uses the natural boundary of Mingus Mountain to divide Prescott from this area and passes all the integrity tests. LDF 51 keeps the Native American Voting Rights District whole. These 2 maps are more compact than the current draft maps and recognize the $2 billion tourist economy in those areas. The idea that splitting up counties is a disservice to community interests is wrong. There are already 10 counties that have been split in your current map. I think the competitiveness of LD 30 is a travesty and must be fixed.
Hello, my name is Sandy Cordova. I'm a 22-year resident of Prescott Valley. For many years, I voted as an independent. For an independent voter to have an impact in an election, it is important that elections take place in competitive districts. The current IRC draft maps do not provide enough competitive districts for independent voters. With Arizona as closely divided as it is politically, we should be creating as many competitive districts as possible so that independent voters are engaged and active in election outcomes. I am thankful for the opportunity to comment, and I hope that the IRC takes these comments to heart and works to make more maps with more competitive districts. And thank you.
Our next group of speakers are Bob Porter, Paul Pavlik, Allison Flannery, Miriam Pack, and Tony Dennis.
Hi, my name is Tony Dennis. I'm a Prescott resident. I've lived in an uncompetitive district for 13 years, and as somebody spoke earlier, we know what that breeds: extremism. We've had a corrupt congressman, an extremist congressman, an extremist state senator, and I would hate to see it become even more uncompetitive, which is what is going to happen if this draft map passes. There are 3 reasons why I think you should reconsider these maps. First of all, Republicans have a lopsided advantage. Why can't you look at the proposed maps that even this out and make a even playing field? Number 2, cutting cities and suburbs apart makes no sense. It's like, it reminds me of the extreme gerrymandering in Austin, Texas, where it's cut into 5 districts so a Democrat could never win one. Number 3, Yavapai County is the fastest growing county in the state, and it needs more representation, not less. These maps give Republicans an unfair advantage. They separate areas of interest from each other, and they don't recognize the new influx of people in our area. It silences the voices of Democrats and independents. I thank you for your service, and I hope you do the right thing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Allison Flannery. I have lived in Prescott for 10 years and then Prescott Valley for 18 years. Actually, there's another 10 years in there. So for 38 years, I've lived in this area, and I'm very fortunate to be so. I want to thank you for your efforts because redistricting is a hugely important process. My husband and I have been observing Arizona politics for the last 38 years. And we were around when there was the proposition and the decision by the residents of Arizona to vote the proposition so that we would take the redistricting process out of the, quote, bowels of the legislature and into the light of day. And that is where it is right now. And to my mind, the original intent of redistricting was to avoid politics. It was completely controlled by one party at that time. So the intent was to avoid politics. And I would hate to see it go full circle back to politics now. I feel that's extremely important to avoid, which is why I really support the idea of communities of interest and going along with that. Arizona, Prescott area has a great history. We are very involved with so many things in the Verde Valley as well. My husband, Mike Flannery, is not here today. He's ill, not that bad, but he couldn't make it. So he asked me to talk about some things that we are both aware of because he was involved in 2000 and 2010 in the redistricting process. Just want to let you know that the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors at that time was very supportive and put out letters to that effect. of keeping the county together. Thank you very much.
My name is Paul Pavlich, Village of Oak Creek. I'm a second generation native Arizonan and an educator of 40 years. Thank you for your work, Commission. It's a lot of work and sometimes thankless. I lived in Flagstaff 30 years and I now live in the Verde Valley in the Village of Oak Creek. I understand the needs of the Flagstaff area and the above the rim communities, but they're very different from those of the Verde Valley and the Prescott areas. Flag has snow removal needs at university and industries like Gore. Sedona, Verde Valley, and surrounding area is more agricultural and rural. I respectfully ask the Commission not to split up Sedona, Village of Oak Creek, or Oak Creek Canyon into 2 districts. It makes no sense, does not serve us as constituents, and would be a cave to the political interests out of Flagstaff. Please keep all of our Verde Valley communities in the district with Yavapai County and fairly represent us to better serve our needs. I agree with Andrea Kadar in that you guys get to draw the maps, not the Coconino County Board and not the political groups like Keep Sedona Beautiful. Thank you for doing your jobs. I appreciate all your work.
And the last call for Marion Pack. The next group of speakers are Catherine Schulte, Sharon Zipperman, Steve Zipperman, Elise DuPoit, and Alan Kelly. I'm sorry, that's probably Ann Kelly.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, my name is Steve Zipperman. I'm a veteran and I'm a resident of Yavapai County, very concerned about redistricting. Testimony at many of these hearings has focused on redistricting factor 6, competitiveness, but the Arizona Constitution provides that, quote, competitive districts are favored only if competitive districts do not significantly harm the other goals listed. Arguments regarding competitiveness amount to an effort to gerrymander these district lines for political purposes. They should not be listened to. Competitiveness is one of the 6 criteria that the Arizona Constitution directs the Commission to use when drawing these new maps, but the caveat is that it should only favor competitiveness, and I quote the Arizona Constitution, where to do so would create no significant detriment to the other goals. Removing cottonwood in the Verde Valley from the Yavapai County would conflict with several of the constitutional goals that this commission is sworn to implement. Therefore, competitiveness should not be considered by the commission, and the Verde Valley and Cottonwood should remain as part of District 5 as shown on the current map, version 10. In general, I agree that the current maps are acceptable, except in 2 areas where minor changes should be implemented, Sedona and Wickenburg. The community of Sedona is split with a vertical line at the Coconino and Yavapai County border, and they have one community of interest. They are aligned very closely with Yavapai County. The second area that needs attention is Wickenburg, where US 60 divides north and south Wickenburg. That entire community should be part of Yavapai County for purposes of these legislative maps. There's an area in southern District 5 in Maricopa County that should not be included, and that's an area where the populations can be adjusted and balanced. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Sharon Zipperman, and I'm here as a concerned citizen of Prescott and Yavapai County. While I have prepared statements, I've listened to a number of very articulate and eloquent speakers. Subsequently, I've continued to shorten my statement and add to the list of people I support. First of all, 2 points.
I approve of the current map with the exception of, which does keep Yavapai County united, with the exception of separating Wickenburg and Sedona, which should both remain with Yavapai County. Let's see. I'll keep it short and simply say that per your earlier request, the people that I absolutely agree with, Mayor-elect Philgood, Supervisor Harry Oberg, Connie Martin, Lois Ford, Selena Bliss, Dwight Kadar, Andrea Kadar, Jeff Parker, and Steve Zipperman. Thank you.
Afternoon. My name is Elise DuPoit, and I'm a resident of Prescott. And while I appreciate that this is an independent commission, it's also true that the purpose of your task is a political one. You can't deny that it isn't. And from what I understand, the criteria are all to be weighed equally. So people who are concerned about competitive districts, I think it's a legitimate concern. If you have a district that weighs 24% in one political party than the other, then that's obviously not competitive. And I think one of my primary goals would be to have a competitive district. So instead of saying that we've got so many Republican-leaning districts and then we have a few Democratic-leaning districts throughout the state, thinking that's balanced, that's not what's helpful in politics. It's each district needs to be competitive so candidates from all parties have a chance. And so I do not support the current draft maps. Thank you for your service.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Kelly, and I'm from Sedona. So yes, this morning I drove over here from Sedona. And I have to laugh a little because I moved here from Texas, and my commute every day to work was longer than driving from Sedona over here. I come into Prescott at least once a month for appointments and shopping, and it is part of my community. I also want to point out, people keep saying Yavapai County is not competitive. How is that so if we elected Donna Michaels, a Democrat, to be our supervisor on the Board of Supervisors? So I know you've worked endless hours in this effort, better you than me, I'll say. You gathered the data and the information, you analyzed it and against the 6 criteria, and you've developed the LD5, draft 10, and I think you got it right. And I support the work you've done. I support the comments that have been made in honor of that, and I encourage you to stick with your design. Thank you very much.
Our next group of speakers are Thomas Reiner, Peggy Pavlik, Daraslawa Bura, and I believe she's gone. I'm sorry about that. Dimitra Manjoros and Yama or Lama Auburn.
Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Reiner. I too am a refugee from California. I'm a concerned citizen of Yavapai County and Prescott. In California, I enjoyed a 37-year career as a computer chip designer. I did security chips, so my chip is probably in everybody's pocket in this room, by the way. We're here. I really am grateful to this commission as you are doing this incredible experiment in participatory democracy. And I know you have some really super hard work to do. I think you're aware of, you got a tiger by the tail in Maricopa County, which is probably a much larger puzzle to solve than Yavapai County, but today is Yavapai County. And you're also aware of Andrea Kading's balloon model, press one end, pops out somewhere else. Anyhow, I am concerned, or excuse me, I enthusiastically support keeping Yavapai County whole with the inclusion of both Sedona and Wickenburg. To make my speech short, oops, it's not gonna be so short. I like the woman from Oak Creek giving us the geography lesson. Mingus Mountain is not some insurmountable obstacle. If one goes down 169, which I did 2 days ago, at not breaking any speed limits, I went from Prescott Valley to Camp Verde in 30 minutes. Almost my entire house is decorated with stuff from Cottonwood and Jerome. And forgot what my last point was, but yeah. That's it. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lama Hayburn, and I'm from Cornville, Arizona. I drove all the way from the Verde Valley to make it clear that those of us in the Verde Valley feel a much greater affinity to Flagstaff. Prescott has its own needs and issues, and those are different from the Verde Valleys. Coming to the other side of Mingus Mountain means going from 260 to 17 to 169 to 69 just to get here, instead of just going directly 89A up to Flagstaff, which is much easier, and it's where I go to find my medical needs and in my specialty doctors and such. Flagstaff is our city. We would much rather be included with Flagstaff in a legislative district like LDF 050, rather than to have Prescott speak for us, as it so often does. Additionally, I recommend that the IRC adopt the map CDF 010 proposed by the Navajo Nation's Human Rights Commission. We should listen to and respect Native Americans' desire for their district, and this map offers a district where the congressional race would be competitive, meaning more participation in elections, a larger variety of candidates, and every single vote mattering. CDF 010 allows Native American voices and all of our voices to be heard. The current IRC CD2 map is outside the IRC's own definition of competitiveness. The district proposed by the Navajo Nation is competitive with less than a 1% advantage to either party, and it is more compact and contiguous than the IRC's CD2 map. This fulfills all of the requirements of Prop 106, which was passed by Arizona voters. It is possible to create a district that fulfills the letter and the spirit of Prop 106. Please adopt map CDF 010 and show voters that the IRC will fulfill the requirements of Prop 106. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hi, my name is Peggy Pavlich. I spent my life in Arizona, and I'm here to support the map, the 10.0 map, with the addition of Sedona and Wickenburg. I live in the village of Oak Creek, and I've been a property owner for 12 years and lived there full time for 7. However, previously, I lived and worked in Flagstaff for 30 years, where I was also a business owner. I know well the stark differences between the two. Flagstaff, the seat of Coconino County, has evolved into a relative metropolis that casts a long, progressive, and ever-lengthening shadow across northern Arizona. Flagstaff's skyline and public interests are dominated by densely populated, multi-story buildings filled with a transitory voting bloc of college students and professors. I assure you, this is not the profile of the village of Oak Creek, where I live, or the other communities of the Verde Valley, including Sedona. Our demographics, cultural history, social traditions, lifestyles, and public interests are more moderate, traditional, and decidedly rural. These would be best served, and I would say represented, not competed against, by inclusion in LD5 with the Prescott region, not with Flagstaff and Coconino County in LD7. Finally, even in an age of technology, weather really matters. It dominates the use of public funds and formation of public policy. Weather affects how we bus our children to school, how our roads are maintained, how public safety and emergency services are delivered, and how our water supply is protected. These interests are best served by keeping the village of Oak Creek and other Verde Valley communities, including Sedona, in LD5. Please put the VOC and Verde Valley communities in LD5 where they should be. Thank you.
And thank you for your hard work.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jamie Sherman-Dros. I am a 7-year resident of Yavapai County. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to comment and also for the work that you all have been doing through this process. I am here to urge you to keep LD5 in our community intact and not remove Verde Valley from the legislative district. Much of the public comment has demonstrated perhaps too much interest in politically motivated desires to alter the electorate based on partisan lines. The uniformity of arguments for dividing our community make it clear that the motivation is political in nature and is not reflective of a desire to do what is in the interest of our community. The Verde Valley has far more in common with and is more closely aligned with Yavapai County than Flagstaff in many obvious ways. We shop, work, recreate in the Verde, and the Verde Valley does the same in our community. In many ways, we are one community. Many in Prescott and Prescott Valley commute daily to work in the Verde Valley and contribute to their local economy. Likewise, many from the Verde come to Prescott and Prescott Valley to participate and work in our economy. And anyone that has made this daily commute, myself included, for a period of time, can testify to how closely linked our communities are, right down to those local economies. And I did go over Mingus. It's actually not a impassable mountain. It's actually a rather pleasant drive. And yes, about half hour to 40 minutes, depending where you're going from. I would like to reinforce the arguments regarding our rural ranching and farming economies being quite different from that of Flagstaff and larger cities in Arizona. When we in these rural farming and ranching communities are taken into these other districts and our counties are broken up, we very quickly lose our voice. And even fundamental issues like water are at risk. So I would urge you to please not succumb to politically motivated and coordinated efforts to undermine the unity of our community, and please keep Yavapai County intact. Thank you.
We have about 10 speakers left. I'll call the next 5. Christy Mayer, Michael Schroeder, Catherine Ransom, Gail DeGate, and Samir Armstrong.
I'm Christy Majors. I'm a Yavapai County resident. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning, and I commend the Commission for the current 10.0 draft map and appreciate your hours of deliberation that made it possible. I understand that there are existing groups as the Princeton Gerrymandering Project who indicate that they are committed to eliminating partisan gerrymandering at a state-by-state level. However, what an outside group decides is appropriate for the state of Arizona is of no consequence if it doesn't align with our state's constitutional provisions regarding redistricting. Those constitutional redistricting directives, I'm sure you know about this, are as follows. 1, compliance with the U.S. Constitution and United States Voting Rights Act. 2, equality of population in each district. 3, compactness. 4, communities of interest. The next 2 criteria are provisional and conditional. 5, to the extent practicable, use visible geographic features and borders, such as Mingus Mountain. 6, to the extent practicable, competitive districts should be favored to where to do so would create no significant detriment to the other 4 goals. I contend that the first 4 goals must be adhered to first before considering the last 2 goals. Yavapai County and Coconino County are not communities of interest, nor are the areas to be considered compact because of the distance and difficulty of the access between the two areas. Thank you for your consideration of my comments today and for your hard work.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Schrader from Sedona, Arizona, addressing this board, this hardworking board, hopefully for the last time. I have spoken to you about our tax responsibilities going to Prescott, the Sedona ties of the Verde Valley Economic Development Plans, and the interaction of county services that are unique to all our rural communities and to Prescott. I will not rehash what you have already heard. This has been an exasperating experience for all of us over the past many months. But what is frustrating is that this commission did its job as outlined in points A through F under paragraph 14 of the Arizona Constitution, which defines the requirements of the redistricting process. You came up with a map version 10.0 that was in compliance with A through F. Now we have the City of Sedona City Council, none of which received more than 22% of the vote of the population of Sedona, coming and stating that Sedona Council unanimously supports a district map that was created by Coconino County. As individuals, they have every right to any opinion they want, whether aligned with the Constitution guidelines or not. But they do not speak for 10,000 residents or the Verde Valley. In addition, it would seem that the Coconino County supervisors have enough on their plate managing a county bigger than many states, but they are trying to extend their reach down into the Verde Valley where they have no jurisdiction. Subpoints A through F under item 14 were followed by this commission. Item F, competitive districts only apply only if A through E are met, and that's in the Constitution. The commission, you guys did your job. Please leave version 10.0 in place for LD 567 and CD2. Thank you very much for your hard work.
Good afternoon. My name is Gail DeGotti. Thank you for your patience and sustained attention this afternoon. I'm a concerned citizen of the Verde Valley. I live in the Coconino portion of the city of Sedona, and I am here today to strongly affirm the following. Number one, keep the city of Sedona whole. Splitting legislative districts within the city is unacceptable. Number two, keep the Verde Valley together and in alignment with Flagstaff, which has been in the past. These communities of interest among the cities and towns of the Verde Valley are best served by this configuration. I've lived in the Verde Valley for 17 years, and I firmly believe this. And finally, I ask you to review and pay closer attention to fair and competitive legislative districts. And it is to this third point that I address the balance of my remarks to you today. A recent editorial in the Red Rock News, November 17th, entitled, "In Bipartisanship, Officials and the Public Both Win," speaks succinctly and eloquently to this concern. And I quote, "Americans are moderate by nature, and when elections are decided by a 52 to 48 margin, we should not expect our elected leaders to govern from the far right or the far left, but rather as near to the middle and near to the electorate as possible. That's what could get them elected over and over, rather than simply appealing to the base on the fringes," close quote. Competitiveness in both legislative and congressional districts is the precursor to, quote, governing from the middle and near to the electorate as possible, close quote. The general standard is 7 to 10% deviation among registered voters from any party. In the case of the map for LD5, there is approximately a 30-point difference between parties. That is significant, and that is not fair. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Samira Armstrong. I recently moved back to Arizona from California after 20 years. I went to high school out here in the 90s. I live with my family who's been here for 30 years. I moved out here to raise my son, and we are very happy members of the community in Yavapai County. And I wanted to thank you for the current map. I believe the commissioners got it right. We would like that Sedona be kept with its own one legislative district, District 5. I'd like to also be thankful for the map 10. Callan, please. The point being is that we moved out of Los Angeles to find the community that best fit our sensibilities. And while Flagstaff is medium age range of the average age range is 25 and Sedona is 65, it still lends more to the family values and vibes that we are seeking. So I thank you so much for doing all your hard work and coming out on this Saturday and hearing us.
Hi there.
And Catherine Ransom, is she here? No. I will call our last group of speakers then. Dieter Connect, Sylvia Sepielli, Dawn Cosio, Deanne Bindley, Stacy Bonami, Ann Heitlin, and Randy Hayes.
Hi, Madam Commissioners, and especially to all the survivors that are here. Thank you. I'm Dr. Dieter Knecht. Today I traveled over the beautiful Mingus Mountain, and I love mountains. We left the Grand Tetons from the view from Idaho to live near our grandchildren in Flagstaff, who then decided that they wanted to move to California. So I'd like to borrow a kid to be one of my grandkids to send with me. And also, I'm a proud geriatric member of Sedona who's way above the median age. So, but I don't see my city of Sedona as part of Prescott and Wickenburg. I support Yavapai County staying whole. And they're fabulous. Well, I'm a minority voice there, but they have their county government. They cover all the issues people are concerned about. But what you're doing is the legislative districts for the state of Arizona. In other words, people think maybe having competitive district isn't important. Well, in my case, I put it another way. It's if I don't have a vote, it is important. So thank you for your work, and please try to make things more competitive.
Sorry. First of all, thank you, each and every one of you, for the work you're doing, the patience you have. Thank you to the support staff, who has been excellent, while my grandson has been hoping and asking when we're going to be up yet. I'd also like to thank you, Callan, for your patience. We've been here since 10 this morning, and I think he's learned two valuable lessons. One, that speaking up and participating in our communities is important, and two, that sometimes it's very boring. So for a 9-year-old.
Would he like to introduce himself to the audience?
Hi, I'm Callan.
And how old are you?
I'm 9. 8, but I'm turning 9.
And do you know where you live? Do you know what county?
I live in Yavapai.
Okay, thank you.
It's been so interesting listening to, everybody today. I came away with a couple things that I thought of as, I was listening to everybody. One is that with Arizona's incredible growth, especially this past year, of outsiders coming and deciding to live in our wonderful state, the idea of kind of trying to force some sort of districting as far into based on what we have right now. So we've heard there's a lot of Republicans in one district and it's mixed in another. We don't know, and especially Prescott and Yavapai County, it's changing. So to me, that we don't know even a year from now what it's going to look like. The second thing is that Sedona didn't have a high school until 1994, and Red Rock High School was built. And since that, especially since that time, we've been even more closely aligned with Yavapai. We've got the college. There's always been support from the Yavapai County side that we relate to. We know there's nothing we can, oh shoot, I support 10.0. Anyway, and the counselors do not speak for all of us in Sedona. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sylvia Seppielli.
Bye.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for Cal, huh? Hello, my name is Randy Hayes. I'm a 65-year resident of Arizona. And I remember Prescott Valley when there was nothing here when I was 5 years old, but a real estate shack on the left side of the road. So for many years, I've voted independent, and I'm an independent voter as it has an impact on the election. It's important that the elections take place in competitive districts. The current IRC drafts, to me, did not quite provide the competitive districts that we need for independent voters. We should have competitive districts so that it's possible, so that the independent voters are engaged and active in election outcomes. I think that's very important. And the landmass here is greater than Rhode Island and Connecticut combined. It's the most populous county in northern Arizona, as Yavapai is a growing county, with a growth rate of 1.68%. So currently we've got 2 congressional districts and 2 legislative districts and six legislators. Yavapai needs 2 congressional and 2 legislative districts. How you go about doing that is your business. You know better than I do. And I think that it's important that we do consider that. 42 seconds left. Okay, Yuma, Coconino and many other counties could benefit from having these multiple districts. So I want to thank you for doing the job that you're doing. I know it is a thankless job in many cases. So please take these competitive arguments to heart and make the maps work to be more competitive. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Heitland. I drove down here from the far side of Flagstaff this morning. That's not unusual. Before I retired, I drove to Prescott frequently for federal court appearances. After retiring, I play golf in Yavapai County. They've got some great golf courses down here. But that's not my community of interest. And I really didn't come intending to speak today, but I have a lot of friends on the Coconino County Board of Supervisors, and I just wanted to stand up and say that I don't think their motivation is to try to invade or take over Yavapai County. They don't want Yavapai County's taxes. They don't want to run their community college. They're not interested in changing the building codes for the county. Instead, they looked at a community of interest that runs along the I-17 corridor that involves public safety, a $2 billion tourism economy, and said there's a way to create a competitive district out of that community of interest. And without that, we will have no competitive districts among the 4 districts that stretch across northern Arizona. That's wrong. They offered you an alternative pursuant to the process you've set up of doing draft map, community citizen input. Yesterday, in the virtual town hall, I heard a speaker from Snowflake say she supports the draft map, but she never goes to Flagstaff. Yet Snowflake would be with Williams, which is 40 miles further for her to go. So that District 7 is not competitive or compact. It could be both.
And then one last call for Stacy Bonomi, Deanne Bindley, and Dawn Coso. If not, then that concludes our speakers. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for your remarkable engagement. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm most grateful that I live in Arizona and we have a remarkably civil and great public. We have other hearings coming up, but we are taking the week of Thanksgiving off, so I hope everybody gets some rest, and then look for additional hearings starting up again November 30th, Mapping Monday with Mark on the 29th, if anybody needs help navigating the mapping system. And with that, we will adjourn, and I will see everybody another time. Have a great day.